June 22, 1944. At dawn, the Eastern Front in Belarus is quiet for only a moment before the Red Army opens one of the largest artillery barrages of the entire war. More than 7,000 Soviet guns fire at the exact same second. German trenches are torn open immediately. Command posts vanish under direct hits. Telephone lines snap. Radios break under the shock wave. German troops press against trench walls, unable to lift their heads as the ground shakes non-stop. The first barrage is only the beginning. Within minutes, the second wave starts. Hundreds of Katyusha rocket launchers. Their screaming launch noise rolls like thunder as entire sectors of the German line disappear under waves of explosions. Forests catch fire instantly. Anti-tank positions vanish. Machine gun nests are blown apart. German soldiers who survive the first minutes are deaf, shocked, and unable to communicate. Officers try to shout orders, but nothing passes through the noise. When the barrage finally lifts, it has lasted nearly 2 hours. In some areas, entire companies have been erased. Trenches are collapsed into rubble, and surviving German troops stagger out of smoking craters. Before they can recover, Soviet assault groups charge across no man's land. Sappers move first, clearing lanes through minefields with poles, explosives, and bare hands. Scouts crawl through the smoke to find weak points. Behind them, Soviet infantry surge forward in waves, supported by close-range artillery. They throw grenades into bunkers, storm dugouts, and shoot any defenders who try to escape. German troops fight back where they can, but most are overwhelmed almost immediately. The frontline communications network is already destroyed, so no one knows what is happening on either side. Some surviving German units try to mount local counterattacks, but they lack tanks, ammunition, and support. Soviet firepower crushes them in minutes. Meanwhile, Soviet tank brigades begin moving toward the breakthrough points, ready to drive deep behind German lines. Everywhere along the front, the pattern repeats: artillery, rockets, assault groups, and collapsing German resistance. It becomes clear within hours that this is not a limited attack. This is a massive coordinated offensive stretching across hundreds of miles. German officers attempt to contact Army Group Center headquarters but cannot reach anyone. Runners disappear. Radios are dead. Units vanish from the map. By noon, the German line is broken in multiple places. Soviet troops have breached the defensive belts that the Germans believed would hold for weeks. In some sectors, Soviet units advance 6 or 7 miles on the first day, unheard of against fortified positions. Reports of disaster finally reach German headquarters, but they arrive late, incomplete, and confusing. Nobody can tell exactly how many Soviet armies are attacking or where the main blow is coming from. By the evening of June 22nd, German commanders realize the scale of the offensive. 4 major Soviet fronts, millions of men, are attacking Army Group Center at once. Operation Bagration has begun, and the Germans are already losing control. As the shock of the opening attack spreads, the full disaster becomes clear. German frontline divisions are badly understrength. Some battalions have fewer than 300 men. Many armored units have only a handful of working tanks. Months of shortages have drained ammunition supplies. Fuel is scarce. Trucks and armored vehicles break down frequently. Still, Hitler refuses every request to fall back to stronger positions. His orders are simple and absolute. Hold every village, every riverbank, every trench. No retreat. No movement without permission. These orders turn frontline units into stationary targets. Soviet tank armies pour through every gap created in the morning attacks. T-34 tanks slam through forest paths and wheat fields, crossing ground the Germans thought was impassable. Two heavy tanks crush German strongpoints by sheer firepower. Armored columns push 20 or 30 miles in a single day, bypassing German positions that are still fighting. German officers try to regroup their troops, but they lack reserves. Most panzer divisions had been transferred south months earlier, leaving Army Group Center with almost no mobile forces. When German infantry attempt counterattacks, they meet walls of Soviet artillery and armor. Entire assaults collapse before they reach the front. Soviet aircraft dominate the sky. Il-2 Sturmovik attack planes descend low over roads, destroying columns of German vehicles trying to retreat. Bombs hit fuel trucks, ammunition wagons, and command cars. Survivors scatter into the woods, only to be surrounded hours later by advancing Soviet infantry. Within 24 hours, the Germans lose control of key highways and rail lines. Supply depots fall intact into Soviet hands. German soldiers stumble through forests trying to find friendly units but walk into Soviet patrols instead. Officers cannot locate their own battalions. Regiments vanish. Divisions shrink to half strength in a single day. By June 23rd, the situation is catastrophic. 3 major defensive zones around Vitebsk, Orsha, and Mogilev are collapsing at the same time. German units that have not been overrun are outflanked and cut off from all sides. Headquarters of Army Group Center receives frantic radio messages requesting permission to withdraw, but Hitler refuses every single request. His insistence on holding ground ensures that each division stays in place until it is destroyed. Soviet forces advance relentlessly, using speed, firepower, and overwhelming numbers to crush every attempt at resistance. By the end of June 23rd, the Germans are no longer fighting a defensive battle. They are fighting to escape a complete breakdown of their entire front. The first major encirclements form almost instantly. At Vitebsk, German divisions barely have time to understand what is happening before Soviet rifle corps slam into the outer defenses from 3 sides. Streets fill with smoke and shattered buildings as Soviet assault groups clear block after block. German commanders plead for permission to pull back, but Hitler's order is absolute. Hold Vitebsk to the last man. That decision seals their fate. By June 26th, Soviet units cut the last road out. Vitebsk is surrounded completely. Inside the city, German soldiers fight from rubble piles, basements, and collapsed houses. Soviet artillery pounds every corner non-stop. Flamethrower teams move behind tanks and clear strongpoints one at a time. The final breakout attempt collapses within minutes. Thousands surrender, thousands more die in the ruins. To the south, Orsha, one of the strongest fortified points in the German line, comes under direct attack by Soviet infantry, engineers, and heavy guns. Bunkers built to hold for weeks fall in hours as sappers blow doors open and storm through the smoke. The famous Tiger Wall anti-tank line breaks under repeated attacks from IS-2 heavy tanks and blasting charges. German defenders are exhausted, short on ammunition, and overwhelmed by non-stop Soviet pressure. By the time Orsha falls, the entire front around it has already dissolved. Mogilev holds out the longest. Surrounded from 3 sides, its garrison attempts a breakout across the Dnieper River at night. Columns of men move through forest trails under artillery fire, trying to reach German lines that no longer exist. Soviet patrols spot the movement and attack instantly. Machine gun fire tears into the packed formations. Engineers throwing pontoon bridges into the river are killed before they finish their work. Units scatter into the woods, only to be hunted down by Soviet scouts. Very few escape. With Vitebsk gone, Orsha crushed, and Mogilev destroyed, Soviet units push west at full speed. They cut the Minsk highway, seize key crossroads, and overrun German supply hubs that were supposed to feed the entire front. Columns of Soviet tanks race through villages, bypassing any resistance and heading deeper into the rear areas. German headquarters watches entire divisions disappear from the map, but still refuses to authorize withdrawals. Divisions are ordered to stand firm, but firm means encircled, isolated, and doomed. Thousands of German soldiers surrender along roads, in forests, and inside burning towns. Army Group Center is breaking apart piece by piece, and no one can stop it. This becomes the decisive turning point of Operation Bagration. As the eastern defensive belt collapses, Soviet tank corps accelerate toward Minsk, the central hub of the entire German front. Tank columns race down highways at full speed, kicking up clouds of dust that can be seen for miles. Infantry ride on tank hulls, jumping off only when they hit German resistance. Behind them, supply trucks push forward non-stop to keep the offensive moving. German retreating columns try to escape toward Minsk, but the Luftwaffe is nearly gone, and Soviet aircraft dominate the sky. Il-2 attack planes fly low, strafing roads filled with trucks, horses, and marching soldiers. Convoys explode in long chains of fire as fuel trucks detonate. Bridges blow apart under Soviet bombing, forcing retreating German units to abandon vehicles and flee on foot. Along every road, burned-out columns mark where the Red Army caught them. Panic spreads as soldiers realize there is no safe direction left. Soviet reconnaissance units push ahead, seizing bridges and road junctions before German forces can regroup. The encirclement forms quickly. By early July, Minsk is surrounded. Nearly 100,000 German soldiers are trapped inside the city and the surrounding forests. The pocket is huge but broken. Communications are gone. Commanders cannot coordinate. Divisions are mixed together and fighting in all directions at once. Inside Minsk, the situation collapses immediately. Ammunition is nearly gone. Fuel is almost non-existent. Artillery pieces fire their last shells and are abandoned. Tanks out of fuel become bunkers until they are destroyed. Soviet artillery begins the bombardment, and the city fills with fire and smoke. German troops try to break out but run straight into Soviet blocking positions strengthened with anti-tank guns, mines, and rifle divisions. Some units attempt to escape through swamps and forests, but air attacks and encircling Soviet troops close every gap. By July 3rd, the battle is over. Soviet infantry sweep through the ruins, capturing thousands. More than 50,000 Germans surrender inside the city. Another 40,000 are taken in the surrounding forests. The destruction is total. Army Group Center, once the backbone of the German Eastern Front, is annihilated. What took the Germans years to build is destroyed in less than 2 weeks. The road to the rest of Belarus now lies open, and the Red Army marches forward without pause. After the fall of Minsk, the collapse of Army Group Center stops being a crisis and becomes a complete disintegration. German units flee in small, scattered groups across forests and back roads, often without officers, maps, or any idea where friendly lines might be. Many simply stop fighting and surrender to the first Soviet patrol they encounter. Hitler issues new commands demanding every town be held to the last bullet, but no one in the field can obey. There are no reserves left, no supply dumps to fall back on, no functioning headquarters to coordinate a defense. Soviet rifle divisions advance so quickly that prepared German positions are overrun within hours of being occupied. Defensive plans designed to hold for days collapse in minutes under the weight of artillery and tank assaults. Soviet mobile groups capture rail lines intact, seizing trains loaded with ammunition and equipment meant for German frontline troops. Fuel depots burn as retreating soldiers blow them up to prevent capture, but most are taken before demolition teams can reach them. The Luftwaffe attempts to intervene, but there are too few aircraft and too little fuel. Every sortie ends with losses as Soviet fighters dominate the air. German pilots report entire airfields abandoned, their comrades retreating on foot. Meanwhile, Soviet columns push in all directions across Belarus. Towns liberated in hours. Bridges captured before German engineers can destroy them. Columns of prisoners stretching back for miles. The scale of the disaster becomes clear. An entire German army group, hundreds of thousands of troops, has ceased to exist as an organized force. In Berlin, officials refuse to accept the reports, claiming commanders must be exaggerating. But the truth is undeniable on the ground. The Wehrmacht is running, broken, unable to form new defensive lines, and the Red Army is not slowing down. Belarus is liberated in weeks, a region the Germans once thought they could hold indefinitely. Roads filled with burning vehicles mark the path of the retreat. Soviet troops march deeper into the German rear, pushing the front westward by hundreds of miles. The German Eastern Front, once anchored on strong defensive belts, now exists only as scattered pockets of survivors trying to escape annihilation. From here, Operation Bagration becomes a display of operational depth on a scale the Germans cannot match. Every major river, the Berezina, the Neman, the Bug, was supposed to slow the Soviet advance. Instead, they barely register as obstacles. Soviet engineers work non-stop, building pontoon bridges under artillery and machine gun fire. Some teams hammer planks into place while shells explode around them. Others swim across with guide ropes, dragging boats behind them. Entire tank brigades cross rivers within hours of reaching the banks. As soon as bridges are secure, Soviet tank armies surge forward and cut off more retreating German units that thought they were safe behind the water barriers. German commanders try to organize counterattacks using whatever armored units they can scrape together, mostly damaged tanks and assault guns pulled from repair shops. But these scattered groups are destroyed almost immediately. Their attacks lack coordination, air cover, and ammunition. Soviet tankers report seeing Panthers and Tigers appear on the horizon, only to be abandoned minutes later as they run out of fuel. Meanwhile, the sky becomes deadly for the Germans. Soviet IL-2 Sturmovik ground attack squadrons fly hundreds of sorties a day. They bomb bridges, strafe marching columns, and smash supply trains. German logistics collapse as locomotives burn on rail lines and entire warehouses explode under rocket fire. Fuel depots vanish in towering pillars of flame. Every hour, the German ability to resist shrinks. The Red Army pushes deeper into eastern Poland, moving so fast that local resistance groups cannot keep up. Villagers waking at dawn hear artillery far to the west, not the east, proof the front has passed them overnight. German defensive lines meant to delay the Soviets never form. Orders to hold river crossings reach units that no longer exist. Commanders wait for infantry reinforcements that will never arrive. The few strongpoints that do resist are bypassed entirely, left to starve under encirclement, while Soviet tanks push on to the next objective. By late July, Soviet armies have crossed every river the Germans counted on and are spreading out across a wide front. The Wehrmacht tries to regroup behind the Vistula River, but the Red Army is already approaching its banks. Operation Bagration is no longer just a victory. It has become the total unraveling of the German Eastern Front, and nothing stands ready to stop the advance. By late July 1944, the Red Army's advance is so fast that Soviet forward units begin entering the outskirts of Poland before German commanders even understand where their new front line is supposed to be. Soviet armored spearheads approach Warsaw, while other units sweep north toward the borders of East Prussia, Germany's homeland, the place Hitler swore would never see an enemy soldier. Panic erupts at every level of German leadership. Field marshals are fired, division commanders replaced on the spot, and entire staffs reshuffled as Berlin tries to regain control of a situation that has already slipped beyond saving. Emergency formations made of SS training battalions, Luftwaffe ground crews, and barely trained Volksgrenadier regiments are thrown into the field, but none of them can stabilize the front. They are too few, too inexperienced, and too shocked by the sheer power of the Soviet onslaught. The Luftwaffe sends its last reserves to slow the Soviet armored columns, but they are shot down by waves of Soviet fighters long before they reach their targets. The political shock in Berlin is immediate and explosive. Army Group Center, the backbone of Germany's Eastern Front since 1941, no longer exists. It has ceased to function as a military formation. 28 divisions have been wiped from the map, and the survivors are shattered remnants crawling west in exhausted groups. Hitler rages, accuses commanders of betrayal, and orders reorganizations that have no effect on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Soviets capture Lublin, liberate Majdanek concentration camp, and push straight toward the Vistula River. German defensive hopes shift to a desperate stand along the Vistula line, but Soviet spearheads reach the river before many German units can even retreat across it. Bridges are seized, destroyed, or contested in fierce firefights. The road to Warsaw is open, and Soviet reconnaissance troops can see East Prussia on the horizon. For the first time in the war, German civilians realize the Eastern Front is coming to them. Streams of refugees begin to flee west, mixing with retreating soldiers, clogging every road. Soviet forces dig in along the Vistula, preparing for the next phase of their campaign. Operation Bagration has done what no Allied operation in the West could accomplish. It has ripped open the heart of German defenses and pushed the Red Army to the gates of Germany itself. The path to Berlin now lies open, and everyone in Europe understands the same truth. The war is entering its final, brutal phase. Operation Bagration was more than a victory. It was the single most devastating defeat the German military ever suffered, a blow so large that it permanently broke their ability to wage full-scale war in the East. The scale alone explains why. The Soviet Union launched the offensive with roughly 2.3 million troops across multiple fronts, supported by more than 5,000 tanks and self-propelled guns, thousands of aircraft, and the largest concentration of artillery the Red Army had ever assembled. When the barrage opened on June 22, 1944, it hit with a force that simply erased German defensive positions. Communications collapsed, entire regiments vanished under the hammering of Katyusha salvos, and Soviet shock armies poured forward with a level of coordination and speed Germany could no longer match. The German side could offer only fragments in comparison understrength divisions, weakened panzer groups, and air units running on fumes. In just 5 weeks, Germany lost over 300,000 men, killed, wounded, or captured. 28 divisions were completely destroyed. Many more were reduced to battalion-sized remnants. An entire army group, something that normally represented hundreds of thousands of soldiers and thousands of vehicles, simply ceased to exist. No other German defeat in the war comes close to the scale of what happened during Bagration. Even Stalingrad, despite its symbolism, destroyed a far smaller portion of the German Eastern Front. Bagration ripped out Germany's central defensive anchor, shattered its logistical network, and left nothing but open countryside between the Red Army and the borders of the Reich. The impact on the war was immediate and irreversible. First, the offensive opened the road to Warsaw, East Prussia, and ultimately Berlin. Once Soviet forces reached the Vistula River, they were positioned to drive directly into Germany's industrial heartlands. Second, it crushed German hopes of stabilizing the Eastern Front ever again. The Wehrmacht no longer had the manpower, tanks, or aircraft to rebuild what had been lost. The divisions destroyed during Bagration could not be replaced. Germany's reserves were gone. Third, the operation demonstrated that the Red Army had achieved full operational mastery. Combined arms coordination, deep battle exploitation, and massive artillery preparation all worked together exactly as Soviet doctrine imagined. The Germans, once the masters of mobility and surprise, were now the ones being outmaneuvered and overrun. Hitler's armies would spend the rest of the war reacting, retreating and collapsing under the weight of Soviet offensives. Finally, Bagration broke Germany's last hope of stopping the Red Army before it reached German soil. After the fall of Minsk, after the destruction of Army Group Center, there was no realistic chance of halting the Soviet advance. Every German counterattack from that point forward was just a delay, not a barrier. The end game of the war was set in motion. Operation Bagration didn't just defeat a German army group. It shattered the backbone of Nazi Germany's eastern defense and set the Red Army on the direct road to Berlin. Final line. Operation Bagration didn't just break Army Group Center. It broke Germany's last hope of stopping the Red Army.